Hey everybody, this is John at the top of the episode. I wanted to do a quick disclaimer before we get started. The views represented here are our views and our views alone. They do not represent that of our employers. To that end, please do not try and find our employers either. Thanks.
Welcome to SeedPod, a podcast about the natural world. I am AJ, and I'll be hosting this episode along with my illustrious duo. If y'all want to introduce yourselves.
I'm Calvin.
And I'm John.
Awesome. Yeah, we're all here. So this week we're going to be talking about the basic intro to fire ecology. It's a topic near and dear to my heart because it's a lot of what I do on the day-to-day. Before we get into that, we've got our regular segments, so let's roll into our Forest Minute. Who's got something for me? Calvin?
So I had a wonderful little forest minute. So I took my daughter on a walk yesterday. She's a little baby, so she was just in the crib. And we found a bunch of native forbs, and we picked a bunch of seeds. And we're going to do some native forbs, plugs. So
Awesome.
We had a nice little walk and, seed collection.
Nice. What did you guys find?
We found about a dozen species. The one I'm most excited for is the false indigo.
Oh yeah.
But just a lot of neat little flowers.
Nice.
Awesome.
A lot of coneflower, black-eyed Susans, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And we just collected a bunch of deadheads out of parks and maybe sometimes the sides of some people's yards and stuff like that. And we'll put them to use. Put them to use for conservation.
It's the little things. You got her seed collecting early, so.
Oh yeah. Well, I told you guys she had to start running plot soon. So
That's
she's
right.
she's not quite plot size, but she's seed collection size. This stroller got a nice little undercarriage, so I was just putting all my seeds in paper
Awesome.
bags and throwing them underneath the stroller.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be a
That's
problem.
perfect.
For me at least.
Yeah, put them kids to work.
Yeah. Yeah, they got hands that want to grab things, so
Yeah.
yeah, they can hold things.
The children yearn for the native seed collection minds.
Yeah.
Look, it's agriculture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just different.
What's more classic in agriculture than putting the kids to work?
It's true. It's a long, proud tradition.
Okay, that was my nature minute or forest minute.
So my forest minute is I just sent a bunch of photographs to you guys in our little Discord chat. So you'll see about 20 people all in a circle around a project area and a parking lot. But we held a beaver dam analog working day. So for those who don't know, a beaver dam analog is kind of like the new hot item in river ecology restoration. Basically, you build a simulated beaver dam. You use the sticks and the mud and the stuff within about 100 yards or less of the creek channel to essentially block up the creek, like you're 6 years old in the woods somewhere.
Oh hell yeah!
God damn, that's all I ever wanted to do.
Yeah. So no, and that's how I've marketed it to folks. Is just all you're doing is trying to block up the creek like you're 6 years old. It was a bunch of professionals with PhDs, master's degrees, bachelor's, people that are very smart and intelligent, and I had to tell them over and over again, you just gotta be the beaver. You're a rodent. You're not a human, with advanced degrees. You're a little rodent that just wants to make the water stop.
Be the beaver you want to see in the world.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, so it was this fantastic day. We had people from Trout Unlimited, a bunch of private folks, a couple city folks, some county and local government representation, and we even had NRCS out here, which is the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and they are kind of the big distribution factor for money that gets to the private land side of things, and they are notoriously... how would you describe them, guys? AJ, you have a lot
that's
of
a whole
run-ins.
episode.
Oh, I know it's a whole episode. I have that written down somewhere as if I want to go
They're
crazy.
small C conservative about novel conservation practices. Let's put it like that.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
they like the tried and true versions better.
They don't like new things. They don't like change.
They don't like new things that are like, yeah, it's not a permanent structure. Like these are meant to these beaver dam analogs. We will do an entire episode on them, but they're supposed to move with the river. A river, much like a tree and an animal, is a living entity kind of, and it moves around the river bottom, and it may take 1,000 years for it to move, but it still moves. And so NRCS is very squidgy, for lack of a better term, about like, oh, it's not going to be here for the next 40 years. It may move 100 feet to the right or the left or downstream or even upstream. They don't like that. But it was nice to see these NRCS people like, okay, trying to learn about it, what actually goes into them, the permitting that is required.
I was going
to
to say they're usually really cagey on like anything about altering hydrology. Like they got to get engineers and stuff involved.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you ran into that.
So we got all of our permits. I have state permits, federal permits, local permits. It's the state of Iowa, so like there's not that many permits you need to go through. But they were very, in the grand scheme of things, very easy to do. We're not stopping the water, right? Like it is not an earthen dam that's taking, however much water and shrinking it down to a little pinprick. No. It's still, water's still flowing. It's just taking more time to get there. And that's the main thing that people seem to grasp. So it's probably not the only one we're going to do, but it was just really nice to see the federal folks out there and like kind of putting things together in their head. So there'll be more follow-ups, but it was really, really interesting stuff. So yeah, we were on the cutting edge of restoration technology, or not technology, but restoration ecology.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. We'd love to see it.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. And so my forest minute, I kind of have a couple-ish. Over the last couple weeks, there's been a couple, it's just meetings, but they're good meetings. One was the interagency burn team for the state, so it's a lot of government agency and NGO partners. Basically, the meeting is just kind of toot our horns and have something to show our supervisors about why it's a good thing. But the bones of it is an agreement, basically, or MOU, that we will help each other do prescribed fire in and amongst our agencies without like actually having to have any money or specific contracts or any of that, shenanigans changing hands. So it really kind of smooths things out. I can go burn with, Fish and Wildlife Service, and Fish and Wildlife can come help me on private land if they want to. Like it covers a lot of things. No one's obligated either, so it's an entirely voluntary thing. But yeah, that meeting was awesome. Always a fun one. Good to see a lot of faces that I don't get to see that often. And then later that week, I actually got out on we did a burn in the end of August, which is not super common.
It's a nice and toasty burn, I bet.
It actually, and I'm not the only one, I think, to recently kind of figure this out. Like, we trumpet growing season fire all the time, because you really good, especially in these pine systems. Like, yeah, hardwood control, shrubby, shrub control, mid-story reduction,
any woody plant control, really.
Any woody plant we don't want growing season's great, but you get to like June and you get to July, and it's hotter than fuck, and it just is too hot. I think there's something going on, like, and I this is just kind of my gut reaction to it. Around about August, I think we start getting enough of a shift in like weather patterns that it's still hot, but it's not quite as hot all the time. And it's still humid, but it's not quite as humid. It's not, you don't get all these days where it's too humid to do anything, but you also don't get these days where it's bone dry. And the live fuel moisture is just like as high as it's gonna be all summer long. So if you can actually get a fire to carry, it'll burn the stuff you want to burn, but all that fuel moisture is kind of like dampening that residual heat that gives you,
Oh,
the
interesting.
scorch and stuff that you don't want. So we've started seeing way better fire effects in August on some of these burns than we would see in like April or May. And I think a lot of us are kind of like, we're seeing it happen, but we don't really know why it's happening. So we're kind of trying to dial that in a little bit so it's a little bit more repeatable. Like, I'm not going to go burn, a private landowner's 200 acres in August, unless, it's somebody that I know really well and they don't really care about maybe having some scorch, because like it's still a risk. But on our like public acres, like absolutely, we're knocking it out of the park. With some of these, and I want to, we want to build on that. So yeah, and also got to work out the kinks on a bunch of my new equipment. So yay!
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
Always love getting new equipment figured out.
Yeah.
I got a mist blower, so I get to play with that next week.
Hell yeah, baby! The 200, I love the SI200.
It was like I saw you with like the 400 or whatever. I was like, I don't think I will be doing that. That's too steep and too heavy. I'm good.
It's a lot. It's a beast.
Yeah.
The 400 is great if you're like doing like grass control and fern control, because you get like really far distance, but it is not fuel or chemical efficient.
Yep. Nope. And I'm looking for both of those.
Yeah, that's not the 400. If you got like just a place you need to kill.
Yeah. And I have that too, but I'd rather have the ability to go up and down the steep asses slopes here without like completely annoying my.
Get strong.
Yeah, no, I clearly need to do it more, but yeah. Oh, I'm already going off on a tangent. But yeah, no, I'm gonna throw rocks at my district forester because he gave us a crop tree release unit, and it was entirely a brush control unit, and the landowner even said it, and God, it's just a clusterfuck. And the landowner started basically coppicing their honeysuckle brush instead of killing it with herbicides and stuff like that. So I'm just like, yeah, I think it's been a year. It happens, and I'm just like, you guys have done nothing. Like, it's a little bit easier to get through, but like, you've done nothing. I need to, please let me help you. It's rough.
Yeah. People don't like using chemical until they're like, "Ooh, wait a second, it's the only way out." And then you're like, "Yeah, dog, you just let me do my fucking job."
Yeah, could have saved you a lot of time and money if you'd done that from the beginning.
No, and every single landowner is now like, I've had two in the past, like this person and another person a week ago said like, "Oh, hey, can you do like 20 acres of TSI?" And like, sure. And just I'm phoning like all of these people that have part-time jobs or going back to school, and like, okay, I need help like on alternating Tuesdays or something like that. Like, give me something, because people don't think about it.
Forced contracting is a huge need, and ain't nobody fucking doing it.
Well, and it's also like some people are doing it, but like the landowners think they can handle it, and then they realize they can't. They realize they can't handle it, and it's September, and I'm booked out till end of October at least, and it's due in December. I'm like, maybe I'll get to it. We're gonna find out together, buddy.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
Yeah. No, everyone likes to be the big rugged individual until the contracts do, and then they find out that
until it's like, I gotta do what? It's 80 degrees out. I was like, yeah, it's gorgeous out. It's only 80 degrees out. It's not 95.
I got 50 acres, and this stopped being fun 5 acres ago.
Yep.
Yeah, we had with a project this summer. The landowner was like, yeah, so we killed the stiltgrass on 30 acres, and they were supposed to kill the autumn olive on 10 or no, 30. And they killed like 3 autumn olive, and we're like, this shit sucks. How much is it going to cost me for you to do it?
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I really hope more people recognize that. But we'll see. Anyways, this was Forestry Contractor Corner after the Forestry Corner.
Huge need. If you are interested in working in the woods and want to do a job that sucks sometimes, forestry contracting.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Oh, apparently there's a shortage of foresters in Kentucky. We had a guy in the White Oak Initiative stop by.
There's a shortage of foresters.
I know, but it's crazy to me. It's like, that's a place that actually grows trees. Like,
Doug, there's a forester shortage. There's a shortage of foresters here.
It boggles the mind. I expected.
I don't think we have a shortage, except for in the state agency, but that's because
That's a shortage.
They can all get. That's because they all get paid more by Weyerhaeuser and
fair.
companies like that. So they just go do that. And it's the easiest I'm a forester work in the world.
Yeah,
so.
it's planting southern yellow pine.
Put it in a straight line, and then you're
done. Spray it a couple times.
They don't
eat
even
once.
Oh,
8x8, baby, 8x8. What do you need?
Yeah. Anyway, forestry bitching corner.
Yeah,
it also happens.
New segment.
No. Hey, that's the whole podcast.
That kind of
basically, yeah. Okay, what's this invasive we're talking about?
On to the invasive of the week. Everybody's favorite segment, where you get to hear us rant about our favorite things and how to kill them. This week we're talking about Kogan grass, and also as a bonus species, Brazilian satintail, which might be the same species. Maybe not, but it might be. So Kogan grass, I don't know the scientific name for Brazilian satintail, I forgot it. Kogan grass is Impirata cylindrica. I don't know why.
That's a sick genus.
Right? I don't know why it's called that.
Imperial cylindrical, or cylinder, that's weird.
It sucks. Kogan grass and satintail, though, they're the reason I say they might be the same species is they're like super, super close genetically speaking. They hybridize, but the hybrids are always fertile. But they're different species because they're native to completely different continents. But like they're stupidly closely related for all that. So they're also like real. You basically can't tell them apart in the field.
Yeah, I'm looking at
largely because if they're in the field together, they probably hybridized. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at the seed tail thing, or the seed head comparison. It's like, oh yeah, this one's a millimeter taller and a millimeter wider. I'm like, yes, because I have my millimeter stick on me at all times.
Hey, we all know all plants always reach their maximum size, so that's a fair way to tell them.
Mm-hmm. And there's no differences depending on where you are in their range, even invasives. They all grow the exact same.
Yep. So Kogan grass is native to like Japan, Korea, southern China, India, and maybe parts of like East Africa. I saw that multiple places, but I don't really know if I believe that part.
That's a crazy range.
It's a weird range. Brazilian satintail is native to like southern Baja California and then all the way south into Brazil and Argentina.
Another insane range.
Right? So it crosses the
weird
divide?
I don't fucking know. I don't know.
No, sorry, that's crazy. It's because how many grasses in the United States do you know of that go from it's native to California, but also Georgia? Like what? Like very few.
Yeah,
maybe big blue stem. That's the
one I can my beloved big blue stem.
But that's where it's native to. Overall, one or both species is invasive now, or let's just say it has presence because it's going to cover all the places it's native to. Also, like there's probably fucking Brazilian satintail in Japan. I don't know. Basically every island in Oceania, all of that, all the little ones, Australia, New Zealand, those two, like they all got Kogan grass somewhere on them. All of Southeast Asia, all of like South Asia, south of the Himalayas. Most of the Middle East, and the Arabian Peninsula, damn near all of Africa. Europe seems to dodge it. I think it's in Spain and like southern Italy, but not anywhere else as far as I'm aware. So maybe they got lucky, or it's just not there yet. And then all of South America and the Caribbean islands also has it. In the U.S., we're looking at southeastern coastal U.S., so Texas to South Carolina, and then also Tennessee because fuck you, I guess.
That's fair to how I think about Tennessee as well. So
yeah.
So it looks weirdly similar. I'm not sure if there's another sort of grass that has the similar like rhizomatous like network, and then it's just like it's got a big white head seed head to it that pops up occasionally in decorative plantings. Maybe it's pampas
So-
grass or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Yeah,
pampas.
there's
Looks like
pampas
pampas.
grass, which is usually going to be not as tall as Kogan.
Oh,
Or
okay.
sorry, it's going to be taller than Kogan, I mean.
Oh, yep. No, it's totally pampas grass. Yep, that's what I'm seeing.
We've got some like plume grasses too that are native that will look very similar. Within its native range, like it is the dominant understory grass species in pine forests. So like we're talking like pine forests in Southeast Asia, in Japan. Like it'll just be Kogan grass pretty much for the understory, and that's what it's supposed to be doing. Problem is it does the same thing here, and we don't like that. There's, like you said, there's a lot of there's a lot of species that kind of look alike. It's a bunch grass with like fairly large, fairly wide leaves, like an inch or not, maybe not quite an inch wide at the widest, but like half to 3/4, let's say. They're really gonna be like rough because they're stupid high in the fuck is it? Silica. Yes.
Oh.
So nothing fucking eats it. Like goats
yeah.
won't touch it.
That's
Like
impressive.
birds.
One thing for me, like field ID is always a little tricky. One thing that always stands out to me for Kogan grass, especially if it's like in amongst a bunch of other grass that you're like, okay, I think that's not Kogan, but that might be. It's always got this like almost a sickly lime green color to it. It's never going to be like
or something. Like it's
it
missing
always
like a
just
nitrogen?
it always looks like that.
Okay.
But that's just how it is. It always has a white midrib that is usually but not always off center.
Oh, kind of like Chinese silvergrass.
That Johnson grass, Vasey grass, switch grass, like there's a shitload of grasses with big leaves.
Welcome to Gravinoid Hour.
and a white midrib that is sometimes but not always off center. Like it's not really a great. If you see it while it's flowering, as far as I know, there's nothing else here that will flower and put on a seed head from like March to June that looks like that. Everything else is flowering and seeding later, and does not have that big poofy white clusterfuck of like it's like 700 seeds per little spikelet on
Goddamn.
there. So I forget what that works out to per plant. It's insane.
It's a lot.
It's just why that's why it's a really good invasive species. Because like the viability is sometimes 0, but it's also sometimes 100%. In various studies that we've done. So it's like, yeah, it sucks. The rhizomes too, if you dig them up, they're like super pointy. Like they will grow right through a root barrier.
Wow.
Oof.
And they're really scaly looking too. So that's another way to kind of ID it. If you dig it up and it's this big clusterfuck of rhizomes with like scaly stabby guys, probably Kogan grass. And that's actually probably maybe the primary way it spreads is through rhizomes. Like the seeds, like I said, the viability can be super variable. But the rhizomes, like when we get Kogan grass infestations, we don't find it as like, oh, here's a couple plants and then they pop up, shotgun blast, kind of like, the way you often see invasive species spreading. Instead you get like the very distinct circular, it's just getting bigger and more Kogan.
Huh.
Because so much of the spread is through rhizomatis.
Rhizomatic.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want more Kogan grass, you can just like harrow it.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, great.
each little
Perfect.
bit of unless if you get a drought, then they will dry out and they it won't survive that. But if you get a little spritz of rain, like you're gonna have a shitload more Kogan grass. So don't do that.
You can't disc it basically like every farmer.
No,
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I would not.
Okay. Cool.
It's also as if there weren't enough problems with it. It's also drought tolerant. It's also somewhat shade tolerant.
Oh god. That means it's super shade tolerant.
Most invasives are both.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And the thing that drives me crazy is it fucking loves fire. It is.
Oh, yeah.
It absolutely loves being burned. Which is kind of like it's a unique invasive for down here because most of the invasives that I have in my neck of the woods, like you can at least sort of keep them in check with fire. Like if you're
Yeah, you
burning
can keep them
regularly,
small.
You generally don't get invasives if you are burning regularly. Once they're established, that's a different story. But like, yeah, Kogan grass is just like, nah, we're good.
Japanese climbing fern checking in here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
or roundleaf bittersweet too. Like we found it in Iowa. It tends to get a little excited about fire and is able to pop into the gaps that you may create by any openings.
Yeah.
Trying to think
I see much more climbing fern. Not places that don't burn regularly, or if it's establishing on properties that burn regularly, it's first establishing in the areas that do not get burned regularly. Like you find it in a ditch or a drain or whatever, and then from there it'll spread out. And climbing fern, it sucks shit, but like it's not fireproof the way that Kogan is. Also, not only does it like fire, it burns so fucking hot that it will like kill everything around it except for itself.
That's impressive.
Including like, longleaf pine, which is arguably our most fire adapted pine.
I wouldn't say arguably, I say is.
Yeah.
It's like top 5, I would say. It's like that, redwoods, and like maybe a ponderosa. I don't know. Like I wouldn't even count oaks as that fire adapted.
Nah. Who is it? UFL did a study like many years ago, looking at specifically like, okay, we think Kogan grass burns really hot, but how hot does it actually? And on average, sites that were invaded with Kogan grass, the average fire temperatures were 250 degrees higher.
Jesus Christ.
than uninvaded sites, which is just fucking what? Like, what are you made? What are you made of?
Does silica burn hotter? Do I just not?
I don't know. No, silica shouldn't burn at all. I don't know what it's doing. It's big leaves. It forms a lot of thatch. It's like a really perfect vertical arrangement of fuel. I think that's what it comes down to.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, so Kogan grass sucks shit. Luckily, we know how to kill it.
Is it glyphosate?
It's glyphosate, imazapyr.
Hell yeah, baby.
Imazapyr also works.
Hell yeah.
So if you need a reason to be somewhat selective, you can use imazapyr, but I don't ever see a reason to do that. Just fucking hit it with glyphosate.
Imazapyr is also a little bit more environmentally mobile than I am.
Oh, it's super mobile. I only used imazapyr if I'm like, nope, there's nothing I need here.
I'll say I've not run into it being mobile as much as just the soil activity catches people off guard, because if you're talking about like heat related drift, but like it's not moving within the soil is I guess what I was saying. It's not like hexazinone.
Oh yeah, no. That's another. Once you get into those ones, I'm like, no.
I actually really like hexazinone, but Kogan grass though, this is kind of another weird thing with it, is like when you're spraying glyphosate, because a lot of invasives you can go hot on the mix and you'll kill the shit out of it the way you want. Glyphosate, like you really do not want to go hot on the mix. You don't want to go like above like 4%.
Unless there's something that you need to get, like you don't want to go above 4. Or did you say? Kogan
no, I mean specifically for Kogan grass because the leaves will actually like burn very quickly and then not translocate.
Gotcha. My bad. Sorry.
It's weirdly sensitive about herbicides.
I see the same thing with knotweed. If you go too hot in knotweed, there's issues.
Yeah. I mean, in fucking climbing fern too, for that matter.
But I mean, that's just another reason we're now spoiling part of the herbicide episode. You never want to go hot on the herbicide. It costs you money and reduces effectiveness. But we have to get into the meat of this episode.
Yeah, we do, because we're like 30 minutes in on recording time already.
Oops.
Okay.
All right, so this episode, Intro to Fire Ecology. So let's start off. What is ecology?
Study of ecosystems.
Good definition as any.
I think that's like ecosystem is like house or something like that.
I study of organisms and how they interact with their environment is another,
Yeah.
kind of like boilerplate. But yeah, essentially the study of ecosystems. So fire ecology is just that, but with a specific lens on fire and how it interacts with these ecosystems. So why would we care about fire?
Oh, because it's really fun.
Oh yeah, there's that.
Because
There's that
it's
for
like,
sure.
I mean, we found out, but like it's singularly some of the biggest impact in the North American ecosystems, like hands down since like the giant sloths were roaming the earth.
Yeah.
Like it's been pretty important for the past 25 to 40,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically ever since the glaciers went away.
Basically,
Yeah.
yeah, since it warmed up a little bit.
I mean, if you think about it, all ecosystems are based on some disturbance, right?
Yeah.
There has to be disturbance, because if you don't have disturbance, you're at perfect equilibrium, and so your system is dead. So there has to be some form of disturbance, and fire is probably the most common, one of the most studied, and I would say still underappreciated kind of disturbance regimes, worldwide. So fire ecology. How does it work though? What does it mean? Well, we're talking about a fire happening on the landscape. So whether that's lightning or started by humans, whether on purpose or on accident, you have fire on a landscape. We have species that are adapted, evolved to interact with that disturbance in some way. But like, how does it all come together? The classic natural resources answer is it depends, and also it's complicated.
So
Yes.
I heard when I was getting taught fire ecology, it boiled down to, at the end of the day, it boiled down to resistant and oh shit, what was it? Oh no,
You got
resistant
one.
and resilient. Is that the two it is? Basically,
That'll
Yeah,
work.
that
We're skipping ahead.
oh okay.
Pretty far there. We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Because
You're
those are
really?
important distinctions to make. So let's talk first though. Like a fire on the landscape. What does that look like? That's right. We're doing the fucking triangles.
Okay.
It looks like yellow and
Orange and
sometimes
some,
white.
some black and white and all right. So y'all remember the fire triangles?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
You got fuel.
Quick
You
question.
got oxygen.
Did you learn this in like middle school?
No.
Not really.
I swear to God, I learned this in middle school, but anytime I ask anybody about it, they look at me like I'm fucking crazy. I don't know if I just had a really cool middle school or what.
I think that one.
Yeah.
All right, so what are the three parts of the fire triangle?
Oxygen, heat, fuel.
Excellent. Side note, a bunch of molecular chemistry nerds decided it's actually a fire tetrahedron, and because of the fire creates free radicals and some other bullshit. It's
it got 4 legs because of woke or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, woke molecular chemistry nerds adding a fourth side to my fire triangle. But anyway, so that's just a side note.
AJ, I'm pushing my glasses up here. Technically, fire is both a chemical and a physical reaction.
Nerd.
Yeah. I just want to point out, like, when we're talking about fire science, there are both chemists and physicists involved.
Yeah,
It is both botany, it is chemistry, it is a bunch of nerd stuff.
it's really really highly competitive nerds. In the context of fire ecology though, like this basic ass fire triangle, or sometimes we could call it the flame triangle, because we're not talking about a fire, we're talking about a flame in this instance. It is there a flame or is there not triangle. So if you knock out any of the legs of the triangle, that little bit of flame goes out. But in fire ecology, a burning match is not a fire, right? In the sense of fire ecology, we're talking about a fire, which is covering, some amount of area and impacting an ecosystem. So we had the first fire triangle, or the flame triangle. But what about second fire triangle? Calvin, do you remember second fire triangle?
You mean like the system and like how fuel, weather systems, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, fire behavior triangle, baby.
Yeah, this is the context in which we live.
Okay. I don't
You
think I
are not
remember
just a
this.
coconut. Oh, because
Okay.
this is now fire ecology.
Yeah.
This is So okay, fire behavior triangle. So you've got it's again triangles. Three sides to it. You got weather.
It's a strong shape.
You've got topography, and you've got fuel. So those are going to be your factors that define the fire that we're talking about. The actual fire moving across the forest or whatever we're talking about. What it's doing. How fast is it moving? Where is it moving? How large is it likely to get? How intense is it? How severe is it? That's all what we talk about when we say fire behavior. And so that triangle, weather, topography, fuel, changes in those change the way the fire acts. Do either of you, because I mentioned it just briefly here, the difference between fire intensity and fire severity, is that something that is familiar to y'all?
Yes, but part of that has left my mind because I haven't dealt with this for a while. So I think intensity is how hot it is, and severity is actual impacts.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect definition of it. Intensity is just is literally how many BTUs or whatever measurement we're using for that. How hot did it get? Severity is what is it actually doing to the thing that we're caring about. So fire severity is the more important thing from an ecology standpoint, but it's also like the more hard to define thing because I don't know, do I care about this weird little plant that's a shrub or do I care about that giant fucking tree? Because the same fire is going to have a different severity based on what I'm looking at. And so that's kind of an important side note. And when we're talking about fire ecology, we are talking about, is this fire doing the stuff that we want it to do on the landscape? So fire severity is super important. All right, so we've got first fire triangle, second fire triangle. What about third fire triangle?
What?
Oh, third fire landscape history.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Climate. It's climate, landscape history, and there's another thing I'm forgetting.
Okay, you're
landform, something like that. Some shit.
Not quite. So climate changes, how often you get these good fire conditions. Obviously, because it's going to impact weather patterns, but it's also impacting the vegetation and the structure of the fuel. So, and the type of vegetation that makes up that fuel. So as an example, here in the Southeast, we get a similar amount of rainfall and a similar number of days with rain as a lot of the Pacific Northwest, setting aside the Olympic Peninsula, not counting that because that's crazy.
That's different. Yeah, very different.
Yeah, that's very different. But everyone thinks Pacific Northwest, it rains all the time. Get about the same amount in a similar spread down here, but we still end up with more good fire days because our overall weather patterns are also better for us, but our fuels are also just more conducive to it. Our plants, when they're green, will burn with a higher fuel moisture than plants out west. Our shit will burn at a higher relative humidity than things out. If it's 70% RH out west, you're not burning shit.
Nope, that's basically raining.
Yeah, that's basically raining.
RH being relative humidity.
Yeah, RH being relative humidity. If it's 70% RH here, we might not get a great fire, but it'll burn.
And you have all this coating grass, right? That'll just act as an accelerant all around your burn edges, right?
There is that too. And so all that kind of comes together, and we end up having basically a shorter fire return interval, which is something I kind of skipped over a little bit. So fire return interval or fire frequency, they're kind of interchangeable terms, and that's how we talk about how often does a unit, a forest, a piece of property, an ecosystem, whatever scale you're looking at, how often does that chunk of land see fire on average? So for a lot of the Southeast, 2 to 3 years is kind of our best guess, maybe up to 5 in some spots. You go further out west and the fire return interval might be, longer. We talked about it last time on the Redwoods episode, I think. I forget what we...
It's about 5 to 10 years for the Redwoods, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, in northern hardwoods forest, it could be 100 years or 50 years or something like that. Same thing. I mean, some oak forest too. It's 10 to 20 years. It's not infrequent but it's definitely not as much as that. And like a prairie as well is like pretty much annually, because
Yeah.
if you've got you got to keep the woody plants at bay somehow, and yes, that's how you did it.
Ooh, keep the woody plants at bay. We love the woody plants.
But that also, I mean, that also is that's a great example though of, like how the climate and vegetation are influencing those fire regimes too, because like in lots of parts of the Great Plains, the drier parts, like even if you're not getting fire in there annually or, every other year or whatever, like you're not really gonna get a forest fucking like in the Flint Hills, of Kansas, right?
No.
Like it's not gonna happen. Because the climate is kind of making that that way. So it's influencing the fuels that end up happening, and we'll kind of touch on that, I think, maybe on the next episode too, when we start talking about prescribed fire a little bit more. That last section though of that fire triangle, ignition sources, obviously that's what causes the fires, and how often does that happen. So like obviously there's anthropogenic human caused fire. Is a huge source of ignitions, whether on purpose or not.
There's a not to
in the modern day, as also pre-European settlement. But
wait, hold on.
Oh,
there's a fantastic study that looked at all cause wildland fire from like the 60s onwards, and like 90% of them are human caused. So when we are thinking of fire causes, it is very important to just keep humans centered. Like I know you're about to talk about it, but like you're like you can have like natural wildfires started by lightning, and that is really really limited in what starts that. Like even in the Blue Ridges and like there's a couple of like lightning alleys. Like those only get lit up like every few years by lightning, and that's like in areas that are like super prone to lightning strikes. So
it's Florida and Georgia and South Carolina and Mississippi. Like it's
even
the
when I worked
far
in South Carolina,
southeast.
Most of the fire is human.
Oh yeah, most is human. So I'm saying the southeast is like by order of magnitude where most ground strikes happen. And so like like that's if you take humans out of the picture, lightning is where you get fires.
It's a really bad ignition source.
It has to be primed at you have to have a lot of quality like benchmarks to be met to get a fire to carry in a lightning ignition.
Yeah, but it also lines up like perfectly well with the areas that have the lowest or the shortest fire return interval on average. They're also the places that get lots of ground strikes in the summer. So I mean, there's certainly something to that. Like again, with this, the fire ecology. How do fire adapted ecosystems evolve? Did they require human, ignitions to get the southeastern pine savannas and these kind of things? I mean, yes and no, right? Like humans have been over here setting fires for a long ass time. Certainly long enough.
At least 25,000 years.
Certainly long enough for a good chunk of these ecosystems to develop, but they're also, I think, not doing that if the ecosystems aren't already primed to be in a fire-prone area. It's the difference between a 6-year return and a 2-year return interval or something like that. And now these ecosystems got bumped that way when humans decided lighting fires was a good idea.
And I just want
to there's two sides to that.
Yeah, no, and I want to preclude that, or not preclude, but drop a subtle hint that this is a debate in the restoration versus rewilding and communities and stuff like that as well. That we'll eventually cover, but basically trying to take as much of the human out of it and just. I think we all fundamentally disagree with that. As just like, no, we're a part of nature. Like, it's just not.
Yeah.
It's not always a good and beneficial, relationship for nature, especially. But like, we are a part of this world, and we have been for a long ass time. And so we need to acknowledge that and work within that context. So there's a lot of layers to this in the ecology spheres generally.
Yeah. Absolutely. So in the context of fire ecology, we're not talking about the first fire triangle very much at all, because we're already assuming that one's taking care of itself. There's a fire or there's not a fire, whatever. A lot of fire ecology is mostly thinking about, I would say, the third triangle. Fire regime is a lot of what we're thinking about, with a little bit of the second one, fire behavior, kind of thrown in. And to an extent, the third, fire regime is going to influence fire behavior just because of the fact of, like, if you're burning, if you're on a short rotation, if the fire regime is very, very quick short rotations, God, I can't talk. A small fire return interval, like, you're not going to have fuels built up as much, so your fire behavior is going to be different as a result of that. So a lot of what we're talking about in fire ecology is fire regime. When is a fire happening? How often is it happening? How much of an area is burning when it does happen? Calvin, you should say something.
I was going to say, like, and what kind of fire you're getting, because not all fires are the same. I'm sure you're about to get into this, but not all fires the same. Sometimes we're burning grass and sometimes we're burning whole trees. But I don't want to steal too much of your thunder here.
No, absolutely. That's pretty much what we're about to get to.
Perfect.
So, right, ecology is the study of ecosystems and how organisms interact with that environment, which obviously includes animals, but we're going to talk about plants for the most part here, because animals are a pain.
Says the wildlife biologist.
I know. No, but when it comes to fire ecology, we are mostly thinking about animals because they're the foundations of ecosystems. Plants. Sorry, plants. I said animals, I meant plants.
There is, I'm going to distract you for a second, there are some really unique animals that are adapted to fire. Like, there's a firehawk in Australia that grabs brands, like flaming brands, and then spreads fire as a way to hunt.
That's so cool.
There are a few weird animals that are involved in fire, but yeah, it's mostly.
But yeah, so all plants have some relationship with fire, whether they want to or not. But they're gonna have semi-predictable responses to exposure to fire of a given intensity or severity. So right, like those responses are gonna change based on what the fire is doing, how hot it is, when it's happening. But like, still relatively predictable. Or maybe we don't know it specifically, but we could know it if we had, the money to do the studies. Like, we could figure out, like, is this tree species gonna survive this burn? Probably yes, probably no. Like, we know that a pretty low intensity summer burn is much more likely to actually top kill, a sweet gum than even a super high intensity winter burn. We know that. We figured that out. We know that some grasses resprout after burning and produce more viable seed after a summer burn than they do after a winter or a spring burn. Like, we know that. We fucking know that pecan trees do not like fire at all, no matter what. We know all that. So, like, that's all these plants all have that some kind of relationship with fire. And so when we're talking about fire ecology, we're thinking about, like, okay, what are the suite of plant species that we're dealing with this in this ecosystem, and how are they going to react to fire at a given frequency and intensity and everything. So this is a good point. This is where we're going to get to what Calvin was talking about. The difference maybe between, like, fire adapted, fire dependent, and we could probably throw fire tolerant in the mix as well. That's sort of a fire adapted subset, but we can maybe get to that. I don't know. Do one of y'all want to take a crack at the differences between fire adapted, fire dependent, and fire tolerant?
Yeah, so fire adapted means that they need fire to do something. Like, the smoke, like, may be part of, like, their germination cycle, which we'll see in some plants. Or like with longleaf, like, they have the grass stage, and you need fire to take them from the grass stage to the tree stage. That's fire adapted. Fire resistant is they're doing something to not die to the fire. So, like, red pine has really thick bark, and it has, like, self-pruning, so it has no low branches. So, like, if a fire burns through it, it's not killing the pine. And then fire tolerance, like, man, fire just kind of bounced off me, kind of like what white oak does. Where it's like, yeah, I got thick bark, I got high canopy. The fire just kind of bounces off. I'm moving along. It ain't gonna kill me, but I'm neither looking for it nor am I hating it. It's fine.
So those are a little switched up from the definitions that I've always used. So all right, fire dependent is what I would call the first things you describe. Longleaf that needs fire to get the bare mineral soil and to help take it out of grass stage. Although it doesn't actually need fire to help take it out of grass stage. It just helps. Fire does take care of brown spot needle blight though, so that's a good reason. But I would say if you absolutely need fire to reproduce and persist in a natural setting, because you can fucking rake the litter off the ground and plant a longleaf and it'll get by fine without fire, but like that ain't natural. But yeah, that's fire dependent. If you absolutely need fire as part of your life history to persist and reproduce, that's fire dependent. Fire adapted, I would say, and the definition of we've always used is that's your species like I'd say that's your species like white oak with thick bark. They are adapted to frequent fire, but they don't necessarily
It's not
need
critical. Like you can have them in more wet ecosystems. It just kind of helps them nudge them along to maybe their
I think it's maybe more useful to talk about like the distinction between fire adapted and fire tolerant is kind of a fine line to draw, but I think it's fire adapted are species that have specific adaptations to fire.
That makes sense. That's a good way.
Like thick bark. Thick bark is pretty much always an adaptation to frequent fire. There's not really any other good reason for a plant to develop that. Whereas fire tolerant would maybe be like sweet gum. Like you could call sweet gum fire tolerant because it resprouts like a motherfucker. But like that's not a specific adaptation to it evolving.
That's just a disturbance. That's a disturbance adapt.
That's just a thing it does, and it can survive getting burned sometimes.
I mean, that's the same thing for red maple. Is like it can get burned a couple of times, but like its vigor is greatly reduced. It is really susceptible to pathogens and stuff like that as well after that point. So it's maybe
all your like your mesic invaders.
Yep.
Are probably they're all more fire tolerant than we would like.
Ain't that the truth?
So so what are we talked about some of them with thick bark, serotiny, self pruning, resprouting to an extent.
Basil crook is short-leaf pine. Give me that basil crook. Ooh, love a basil crook.
I'm trying to think of any others.
Grass stage.
I was
gonna say the big needles.
And then longleaf has that like water bubble at the tip.
That's what I was, So it's the needles themselves on young longleaf, and we're gonna get into this again. We'll probably just repeat it when I actually talk about longleaf specifically. But yeah, they're very large, very high moisture content.
Okay.
And then the terminal bud has this like silky, I don't know, fiber, whatever on it, and it like holds moisture really well. So like you can send a fire ripping through there and like super. I mean, you can kill them doing that. I have, but not very many. Because a lot of the times what'll happen is as those needles burn off, all that moisture is vaporizing and it like carries the heat away from that terminal bud.
So it's like doing a weird version of like evaporative cooling, like
exactly.
That's awesome.
It is. It's exactly it. It's evaporative cooling, but for a plant in a fire.
Cool. That's
and as long as that fire moves through there quick enough, like it'll be fine. So yeah, that's absolutely a plant adaptation to fire for sure. Another one that we'll get to coming up in a second here is, and we can maybe talk about this, is site requirements or characteristics. So a plant that picks places or tends to germinate in places that are protecting it from fire in some way, and I mean that in specifically a system that does experience frequent fire. So I'm not talking about like magnolia or whatever, or something grown in a bottom where the fire never gets to it. But I mean, like, microsite selection is maybe another fire adaptation. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll get to that in a little bit. So fire dependent species require fire to persist naturally on the landscape. Like I said, naturally is important there. If you can plant it and not burn it and it does fine, like, that doesn't mean it's not fire adapted. It doesn't mean it is. We mentioned Serotinii on the previous episode too. Like, those don't need fire to open all the time, right? Like, high heat on a rocky whatever area in the sun, like, those cones can open. But how often is that happening, and is that happening enough for that species to persist on a landscape over a long period of time? Does pond pine still exist without any fire in its evolutionary history with Serotinii?
So
Probably not.
So
I'm gonna guess.
Yeah. So I will say, for at least the lodgepole, because that's the one I know, and I'm going to answer the question, and we can decide to move on from there. But it depends on. So there's basically 3 varieties of lodgepole, and the Rocky Mountain one, and I think it's the California one. Have like it's the California one and the Northwest one have the most like fire adapted part of it, and the Rocky Mountain one, I think, like the high country one,
Okay.
has it can just survive. It gets knocked down in a windstorm or something like that, or a big snowstorm or avalanche, then the seeds can open. One of the two. There's basically what I'm trying to get to is there's genetic differences for each of those populations to the point where they're all a little bit varied in the amount of Serotinii that they have specifically tied to fire rather than just kind of general heat. So it depends.
Okay. That's classic answer.
Yeah.
It depends.
It depends. It's like, hey,
Love
context matters. Your surround, like we were talking about all the landscape scale stuff earlier. Like, hey, that stuff matters for the lodgepole. So probably for pine too.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. The confusing the site selection, I guess, example that I wanted to bring up, because this is just a plant that I think is neat. It's really stupid. It's called Ceradiola ericoides, or sandhill rosemary. Do either of you know about this stupid plant? Yeah, it only grows like in Florida and Georgia, and like I think maybe there's a little bit in like Mississippi or whatever. It grows on super 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 dry sandhills along coastal plain rivers. So like these are extremely fire dependent ecosystems, right? Like they burn all the time, like full fucking wiregrass.
So dumb question: is a sand ridge and a sand hill, like, I only know that like it's next to an ocean or something like that? Are these next to that, or is it just like it's just that much sandy soil that you have down there?
Sand. It's like not next to the ocean, but it is like a sand dune.
Oh, okay.
Not next to the ocean.
Okay.
But not quite like big sand dunes with like literally nothing growing on them.
Okay.
But yeah, it is like you scoop up a shovel full of soil, and it's
all sand.
90% sand.
Gotcha.
Maybe
okay.
10% other stuff.
No, that's fine. I've never dealt with this, so
yeah,
I'm learning.
Yeah. They're super cool. Almost anywhere that like is called like pine barrens too is probably some form of sandhill.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, because it's super common along the coast. Super fire dependent ecosystem. Does Ceradiola ericoides like fire? Fuck no. But it only grows there. How does that make any goddamn sense? So like if these areas don't get burned, they do eventually very slowly get invaded by like live oaks and laurel oaks and like water oak to a lesser extent. So like these are our mesic oaks. They don't like to burn, but they will under the right conditions if things get dry enough. Like the leaf litter, like it, if it's like 40% humidity, 40% RH, you can probably pick up like a dried out water oak leaf, light it on fire, and it might go out on you. Like it just doesn't like to burn, but it will. And even before those kind of species invade, like the turkey oaks and other like scrub oaks that we do have and already grow on these sandhills, they will grow, more and build up litter. that kind of allows fire to spread uniformly, because the fires on these ecosystems, like I said, they burn all the time, but they're usually super super patchy, because again, it's just fucking sand. Like, you got a lot of vegetation, but it's not contiguous. So you'll get these little patches that burn and little patches that don't. Scattered pine here, and some scrubby oaks, and some shrubs, and then some wiregrass, and some other forbs and stuff, all split up with like little sandy pathways between them. So the fires are always like very very heterogeneous, like very patchy. And that's what Ceradiola wants. It does not like fire. It burns like a fucking torch when it does catch, and it does not like to resprout. Takes like 15-20 years to reach reproductive maturity, and I'm pretty sure getting top killed, even if it did resprout, like, would kind of reset that.
It's like a
so
fur,
it really doesn't.
It's like a fir out west, where it's just like, if you breathe on it the wrong way with too hot of a wind, it's like, I'm done. I quit.
Yeah,
I'm out.
It's this weird plant. But at the same time, fire like the seeds don't germinate unless there's fire.
Oh jeez.
What are you doing?
It's just trying to take advantage of the disturbance and kill everything afterwards.
So like, it again, depending on the scale you look at, like at a large scale, if you look at the sandhills, then yeah, it wants a really frequent fire return interval, right? It wants like a 3-year rotation at the latest, because that's what keeps competition, but most importantly, fuel loads down. Mm-hmm. Because if you let the, especially like turkey oak leaves and shit, like, they'll blow around and drift, and pretty soon now you got a pile of turkey oak leaves at the base of your Ceradiola.
Oops.
And if that catches the next time it does burn, well, now there goes the Ceradiola. So it doesn't like that. So at the large scale, it wants that frequent fire return interval, but at the very local scale of where that plant is, it wants no fire return interval.
So, listener, what you should be taking from this is that fire is not just because it happens doesn't mean it is one thing. It is, if anything, weird on the large scale and the small scale. You get large impacts and small impacts, and sight is very important when it comes to fire.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very heterogeneous thing that when it happens, like, everyone thinks of the blasted, hellscapes of the western United States, but even in that context, you'll have pockets of, things just did not burn whatsoever. Sometimes, it burned gently and was on the forest floor, did not even touch the canopies, and then the next, 100 yards later, it caught a breeze, and every single tree is torched out, and their crown fire was ripping. And so, even
sometimes I like to go look at like satellite aerial imagery of where there's been burns, and then see all the little green spots that didn't burn, and try to figure out why they didn't burn. I'm a fucking dork.
I was gonna say, you're a very normal person. Yeah.
Because I'm the most normal.
Okay, so what does all this have to do with fire ecology?
Well, so we're talking about the foundation of fire ecology is how is a fire interacting with these landscapes and these plant species that we're talking about. So whether plants are, you've got an ecosystem that is full of fire dependent or heavily fire adapted species, then that is going to be the foundation of how fires moving across that landscape impact and maintain that ecosystem. So we haven't really talked about wildlife, and like I said, it's because plants are the foundation of it, of ecosystems, and they're kind of like adaptations and interactions are easier to study too. And also, like we said, wildlife very rarely has any specific adaptations to fire. Like you're not getting like fucking, I don't know, lizards with asbestos scales growing in the. As cool as that.
Dragons don't exist in real life.
Dragons, unfortunately. But most wildlife do have habits and behaviors that help them out in fire-adapted ecosystems. If you're a bird,
like the gopher tortoise.
Like the gopher tortoise. Yeah, if you're a gopher tortoise, or if you're just a snake or a lizard, like you go in a burrow, or maybe
hang out with the gopher tortoise.
Or if you're a snake or a lizard, you might climb a tree and go up to the top of the tree. If you're something as big as a deer or coyote, like
you move.
You can move. Especially in like, relatively low intensity fires that aren't moving super, super fast. Like they move. It's fine. we don't have a firehawk like Australia, but we do have kites, which are a type of raptor, and they're not. This is not an adaptation to fire so much as I would say them just taking advantage of it, but they will like actively seek out burning areas to pick off the insects that fly up. So like it's not, uncommon at all to like get a burn going and look up and there'll be like, a couple swallow-tailed kites and a Mississippi kite circling around just nabbing cicadas and dragonflies and all that. And so that's, the way all these species and these systems, I guess, interact with fires that's fundamentally what fire ecology is. It is the study of that. It is, biologists and foresters and scientists all looking at how is a fire impacting this landscape, and is it, from a management standpoint, is it impacting it in the way that we want for the species that we care about? And and that's fundamentally what it comes down to. I think we don't. I think we probably we don't have time to get into longleaf specifically. So I think we're gonna save that for prescribed fire, which is maybe like we'll call that the practical application of fire ecology on the landscape, and I think that will be our next episode. If not chronologically, it'll be the next one in this little fire flaming mini series that we're putting together here.
Can I do a slight coda?
Absolutely.
Okay, so one thing that we talked around a lot, but we never fully tapped into, which I'd like to tap into, is like we have various kinds of fire, and like so just like major ones. The major types are we have stand replacing fire, so that's we burn it down to the dirt.
Yep.
Some plants want to stand replacing fire. Then we have just like a ground fire, and so we're just gonna burn through. We're gonna burn off
understory burning is what they call it a lot of times.
Yeah, we're just gonna burn a little bit of stuff. It's not everybody's gonna die. Gonna be a little bit of singe on you. That's our understory fire, and those are our big two. But we have those are the kind of the big ones we want to think about. So when we're thinking about fire, we have to remember we have all manner of severities, from stand replacing to we just burned the leaf layer a little.
Right. So, yeah, and that comes back to the fire regime stuff. For the most part, like
and so
you don't get stand replacing fires in areas with. Well, okay, I wouldn't say you don't. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
Usually get stand replacing fires in a place that has a 3-year fire return interval because like there's no fuel.
Everything off.
Yeah, you already burned all the fuel off, so there's nothing to make the live fucking trees burn away. So yeah, and sometimes that's a natural thing to have stand replacing fires. Sometimes, so like, I should say, in terms of the ecosystem, some ecosystems like that. Some ecosystems are supposed to have that. Sometimes those are a result of, artificial conditions created by people. And we'll talk about that too at some point.
Yeah, and so just because I want to just make sure we hit the definition. So a fire return interval, or fire regime is how often is it burning? And then fire regime is like how often you're burning and what kind of burn is most common for this ecosystem. So like with our longleaf fire, with our longleaf stands, we're usually seeing, a ground fire every couple of years. Whereas like with a jackpine ecosystem, we're seeing a stand replacing fire like every 7 years.
And seasonality comes into that too as well. Yeah. So is the fire happening in the spring? Is it happening in the summer? Is it happening in the winter? Obviously, when we're talking about anthropogenic fire, like that's we can make that decision up to a point. Obviously, if we're talking about lightning fires, well, those are mostly going to happen when there's lightning, which is mostly in the summer. I guess maybe there's fires that are caused by volcanoes too, but I don't think we need to include them.
Yeah, come on now. Okay, that
was a great coda.
Because we talked a lot around that a lot, and I just wanted to put a definition.
Yes.
On that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, John, do you have anything you want to add real quick?
No, not really. This has been a lot of flashbacks to my fire ecology class a long time ago. Yeah, no, just getting back up to speed on that sort of stuff. So I'm just here for the ride.
Awesome. Well, yeah, like I said, I think next time we may be doing prescribed fire, and we'll talk about longleaf pine as well, unless that changes, and then we'll do something else.
Yeah, so this is a whole little mini series that we got planned here. This is our first official planned series, unlike our wildlife series, which was
That was unplanned,
a happy accident, as they say.
Yeah,
unplanned saga.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about prescribed fire, and then we're going to talk about fire suppression and kind of like what happens when you don't burn, and how did we get to where we are in a lot of the Western fires, the Western mega fires. I mean, not just like, because there's a lot of fire that happens out west.
Yes.
But the mega fires.
Yep.
We're going to talk about the bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. We try to avoid those. So that's where we're going with this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're going. I've got to do the social, not the social media plugs because we don't have that yet. But like the podcast, leave 5-star ratings. Leave a comment about like what you want to hear.
Comments wherever.
Yeah.
We have an email address.
Oh
yes,
my god.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. Please. We want to hear.
If you have a question about natural resources, email us at John. Someone tell us.
I don't have the email address in front of me.
It's God.
It'll be in the notes.
We'll
figure out how to put it in the notes.
Hold on. It's seedpod.pod at gmail.com because seedpod was taken.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have questions about natural resources, ask us a question. We will answer it, and we'll do a whole listener mailbag episode.
Yeah.
Make sure to tell your friends about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Podcast survive by word of mouth, everybody. So let your friends know. Okay.
Thanks for tuning in. We will see you all next time.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.